Guys, welcome back. This is going to be the first video in a series that a friend of mine suggested that I do, and that's my phone going off. Basically, since a lot of my tutorials are, pretty much all of them, are now C++ based, I thought I would maybe do a C++ tutorial series, just to cover the basics. So, to start, here's Visual Studio. Now you can use pretty much anything, but I'll be using Visual Studio. You can get Express for free. Do a new item, CPP file, main. Just name it main. Now I'm going to explain this. Now, basically, each compiler for each language has a certain way it figures out what part of your code is actually executable. Now, with the C and C++ compilers, it defines that the entry point be what's called the main function that returns. Well, I'm going to make the font big so maybe you all can see it more easily. Okay, so it returns an integer, and it's always called main, and usually returns 0. Returning 0, the 0 code value means that it succeeded, it completed running. Now in here, this is the C++ compiler defines the basic main function as. There's also, you could put void in there for C, I think, but what you're going to want to do, actually no, I don't think you can do that, but also if you want to actually have command line args, you would do this, which basically is here are our command line arguments. So you'd pass them in. So before you run, you could run your exe on like the command line, and then after you type myprogram.exe, you type space, and then you do quotes and pass in some sort of string arguments. So that's the basics of that. Now, since if you don't really care, you can just use that. This is the simplest form. So that's a little bit short for the first tutorial. So what I'm also going to cover is some basic, the basic Hello World program for C++. Now, C++, in order to output stuff, you need to use what's called the IOStream, or the standard template library class that handles input and output on a byte stream. So what we're going to have to do is include something, and now what these are, they're called include directives. So when you have libraries, as you can see up here, this is it's showing exactly where this IOStream file is actually located. It's in the Visual Studio 2012 Visual C compiler include directory. Now, there's another way to do includes, and that's with the quotes. Now, when you're importing, generally the convention for this is for C or C++ native libraries like standard template library, the ones that are basically included with your compiler, and those that you link to, so that you have the library, the DLL, the dynamic link library, and you're actually linking to, should be included using the brackets. Now those that are located on, either one would work, either using the quotes or not, or using the brackets, angle brackets, but this searches right away for only the ones that are in the include path, while this searches, the quotes searches first for the current directory that this main.cpp is in. So it'll go and look at where the main.cpp is. So basically the quote version of the include directive is generally only used for your own classes. So if you define a class with a class file, then you'd include it using the quotes. So for here, we're just going to include IOStream. And now I'm going to discuss namespaces. So namespaces are basically sort of blocks of, basically block out where something's defined. So if I go create a namespace here called my namespace, and then I make an int x, now my namespace has that variable x. But I can't just go x plus equals, 4, because I won't know what x is. I'd have to preface it by going my namespace. And see, now I can increment that. Now, if you don't want to constantly prefix, what you could do is you could go using namespace, my namespace, and then you can just go x plus equals 5. And it knows that this is from my namespace, as you can see. So that's a quick introduction to namespaces. They're good for organizing your code. Basically organizing your code and keeping things defined in certain areas. So if you don't want to include certain parts or don't want to use certain namespaces, they won't get really used, or you won't get name clashes if you want to name things the same. So the thing about this that I wanted to, why I wanted to introduce that to you is STD is the namespace that all the input-output, as well as some other functions and objects are in. But the main one we're interested in is cout, and that's basically cout, and then these two angle brackets mean that you're pushing these bytes into the output stream, or I guess outputting these bytes from the output stream. Basically, this will print to the console, hello world. So what I'm going to do though first is set up a project to be a subsystem console. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. Now, what's going to happen is you'll see it flash open for a second and then close. So I think if you run without debugging, it will not do that. It won't close right away. It'll wait for a key response. So now you see hello world popped out. So finally, to end this tutorial, I'm also going to show you another way to pause it. So you could also do this and run the system command called pause. What that'll do is it'll tell it to wait for basically a key press before exiting. So either way is fine. I would shy away from using the system pause because you don't want to include that in your actual application. But there you go. So thanks for watching this tutorial. Next tutorial will cover classes and structs and the difference between the two. Thanks for watching.